In the span of just months, children around the world have pushed the issue of climate change discussion into the heart of policy debates at countries all over the place. CBS News is reporting this today. Well, actually yesterday. Kids are pushing the issue out there for mainstream media and public conversation. There are some youth-led efforts. One is called the Sunrise Movement. The other one is the Youth Climate Strike. And then there's a lawsuit, Juliana versus the United States. I'll tell you more about that in a second. At the forefront of one of the efforts, a 16-year-old Swedish climate activist named Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg. She has compelled, this is according to Leah Kuzba, the Deputy Director of Alliance for Climate Education, which is a nonprofit education organization. That woman said that this 16-year-old, quote, has compelled the EU's Jean-Claude Juncker to dedicate every fourth euro to be spent between 2021 and 2027 to climate action. That is translating youth movement building into real political action. So, the kids whose future is what climate change is all about. There either will be a future or there will not. As it stands right now, there will not. There will not be a future for people who are right now 14 years old. That includes my daughter. This really fucks with my head. I mean, it really does. It includes my grandchildren. It includes your nieces and nephews. It includes your grandchildren if you have them. They do not have a future, and I don't give a fuck what Donald Trump or the carbon fuel industry, what lies they tell. That is a given. The science is happening right in front of our eyes, and we are determined to stand here with our eyes wide shut. I cannot get it. Today, the Youth Climate Strike movement has arrived on U.S. soil. This didn't start here. It started in civilized parts of the world, not here. Young people across the U.S. are planning to skip school to call for action on climate change. Now, the co-leader of the U.S. protest event, Alexandria Alexandria Villasenor. She's a 13-year-old. She's the co-leader of the U.S. event. She said 400 strikes, student strikes, were planned nationwide today. If you are listening to this podcast on Friday, you probably have seen the video of some of these strikes. Over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday approaching, there will be more video of these strikes. Here's what this 13-year-old said. She said the movement's mission statement is this: we are striking because if the social order is disrupted by our refusal to attend school, then the system is forced to face the climate crisis and enact change. With our futures at stake, we call for radical legislative action to combat climate change and its countless detrimental effects on the American people. Now remember, this is the USA branch of this movement. Now, what is she talking about? She's doing exactly, to a much lesser degree, because these kids have yet developed the ability or the media power to motivate the adults. In fact, what this represents is a generational battle. Young people fighting us because we have fucked things up almost, maybe not quite, to the point of total annihilation of most life on the planet. Now, you know, those statements sound so overblown, don't they? But if you look at the science, if you listen to what the scientists are telling us, if you look at the results, if you look at the oceans heating up, if you look at the weather patterns becoming hideously destructive, if you look at the coral reefs dying, I mean, just on and on, the scientific evidence is everywhere, except for those of us who, with our eyes wide open, are pretending we're blind and we don't see it. Especially if you're religious. If you're a Christian, you just don't see it. Oh, no, well, God would never do that. You crazy fuckers. She said, we are striking because if the social order is disrupted by our refusal to attend school, then the system is forced to face the climate crisis and enact change. No, you're almost right, Alexandria. If the social order is disrupted by your refusal to attend school in the first place, the way so many adults will set this up is for the kids who attend school, it's an unexcused absence that may lower your grades. So they use blackmail and pressure to get the kids to go along with the adult bullshit. You skip school, you're really in trouble. But if I skip school, I'm trying to make an essential political point. Doesn't matter. Write a letter to your representative. Are you fucking kidding me? So Alexandria and the rest of the U.S. protest event have the right idea. Disrupting the normal political social flow of events of a given day in the United States. But you cannot disrupt that flow by having several tens of thousands of students not attend school. That's a start. And good on the kids who are doing this, because they see it with the eyes of the young. That's my life. That's my future. That's my kids if I want to have them. That's everything is out there. And you adults have fucked it, and you're continuing to fuck it, and you won't even listen. So we're going out on strike. But it takes 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 the number of people, the students that will come out in today's protests. It takes that number of students to the 10th power, to the 20th power. All right, not the 20th. There aren't that many people on earth, I know. To the 10th power anyway. That's the number of people who have to take to the streets. You don't have to carry signs and banners. You don't have to set fire to police trucks. You don't have to do any of that fucking violent shit. All we have to do is go to the streets and stand there. That's it. Make the machine stop. That's all. That's all. Let me find it. Let me find it. Yeah, I know. We don't have to do anything. That's the part of the protests that I've been talking about for so long, is that the amount of energy required is so minimal. Mario Savio, Sproul Hall, University of California, Berkeley, 1964. There is a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart, that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all of the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people to own it, that unless you're free, In this instance, from global climate disruption. Unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all. That was 50 plus years ago, 60 years ago, 65 years ago, for Christ's sake. Something like that. That Mario Savio said that in a different context, but it applies now to global climate change. The machine that is destroying everything is this machine of predatory capitalism, fossil fuels that are just destroying everything. And the kids see this. Older people don't, because older people go blind, deaf, and dumb. And then there's this. Civil disobedience, which is what these kids will be doing, which is what millions of us should be doing. God damn it, this frustrates me. Civil disobedience is not our problem. Our problem is civil obedience. Our problem is that people all over the world have obeyed the dictates of leaders, and millions have been killed because of this obedience. Our problem is that people are obedient all over the world in the face of poverty and starvation and stupidity and war and cruelty and global climate change. Our problem is that people are obedient while the jails are full of petty thieves and the grand thieves are running the country. That is the problem. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. You have your choice. You can listen to the ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.